and welcome to you talking to me today from the European Parliament, where the last hearings of the European Commissioners are taking place. We want to know more about the role of the European Parliament in this procedure, and we want to know more about the power game of the political parties. So let me first introduce my guests. It's Mrs. Tanja Fajon. She's a Slovenian member of the European Parliament, co-chair of the European Socialists and Democrats. Hello, Mrs. Fajon.
Hello.
Rebecca Harms, she's a German member from the European Parliament, co-chair of the European Greens. Hello, Mrs. Harms.
Hello.
And we are joined by Olivier Henrion, our colleague from RTBF. Hello, Olivier.
Hello.
And on the phone we have Barbara Peranic from our Croatian partner, HRT.
Hello
to Zagreb.
To everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Mrs. Harms, at the beginning of the hearings, you claim that the big parties, the European Socialists and the European People's Party, had some kind of a non-aggression agreement. What made you think that this was the case?
So I never called it non-aggression agreement. I think it's a wrong terminology, but they
what would you
together
call
with
it,
together with Juncker, possible next Commission's president, if he doesn't fail with the Commission, together with him and the governments of member states, the political parties, Socialists, EPP, so European People's Party, and also Liberals, they have knitted a carefully constructed jumper with people from all the big political families included, and this carefully knitted piece, I don't know whether is carrying through the hearings. In the beginning, I thought the political parties have no real decision for a good and tough role of the European Parliament in it. Meanwhile, my impression has changed, and I think some of the candidates were so weak in performance that there is a chance, together with the European Parliament and Juncker, against this balanced approach based on political interests of the parties, to achieve a better Commission for the next legislation.
So, Mrs. Fajon, did you knit such a jumper? Did you have such an agreement?
I mean, in the first place, of course, the one who is a master is certainly the new elected president of the Commission, Jean-Claude Juncker. But of course, the hearings, what we witnessed in the last days in the European Parliament, are a very serious task for all the commissioners. And I, as a parliamentarian, I wish to see that each candidate that is not strong enough, no matter from which political group it comes, should be simply replaced either with a portfolio, or we have to get a new nominee. If the European Parliament at the end of the day will have this power, now we are in the final first round of the hearings, we shall see. But certainly we have to take into account that we have here a certain balance, that it's a result of the European elections. We have some sort of, I would say, pro-European coalition of the largest party, the Socialists and Democrats, the Liberals and the Greens. What is the difference against those who we feared at the beginning, populists, nationalists, extreme rights, extreme lefts, to voice a strong Europe? And let's see what the final result will be. I wish to see, and this is as well the main criteria in Socialists and Democrats, a strong Commission that we can really rely on, and we will do everything to assure that.
There is some disagreement. We saw that, you mentioned it. So is the Grand Coalition now breaking apart at this moment?
One can say that it's not as solid as it looked at the beginning, because when we experienced the first hearings, immediately we saw at the moment there are 4 or 5 candidates that are uncertain, that are still waiting for the final approval. So that means that there is not maybe so solid agreement, but at the end of the day, as I said, I wish that those who are simply not competent enough, we should be as well. It's our responsibility in the European Parliament to express our strong voice against.
Mrs. Harms, you welcome the postponement of some votes on the candidates, and you said it's more democratic. Wouldn't it have been more democratic if the members of the parliament had taken their vote directly, their decision directly after a hearing on their impression of the performance of the candidate?
So my Green group in the European Parliament is far away from possibility to achieve a majority, and this grand coalition, including the Liberals, decided a careful approach. It's not the direct approach, but now I think we are in a situation in which the grand coalition has to admit that if they stick to the first propositions, they will not be able to have a commission which delivers and works at optimum level. We have many complaints because of the lack of competencies of commissioners proposed, and we have also one real severe case on possible conflict of interest. And I think Jean-Claude Juncker and the political families backing him together, they should decide for a more democratic and more open approach based on the hearings.
So what is going to happen? Maybe Olivier, you had some questions. Go ahead.
Yes, Tanja Fajon, this opposition that we see between the EPP and the Socialists and Democrats seems to many people to be a bit artificial, because it seems it only happened during the hearings. Most of the time, when for the rest of the mandate, the discussion between the two groups is much more consensual. Does the European Parliament come out any stronger of this partisan politic exercise?
First of all, I would still take into consideration the present composition of the Commission. We have 8 candidates coming from Socialists and Democrats and 5 candidates from the Liberals, and each group has 2 vice presidents. I wouldn't say that here it's a strong connection only between EPP and Socialists. It is something we have agreed, and the other fact and reality is that Jean-Claude Juncker got the names from the capitals. So he had to choose from those names the government sent to him. So this is something he didn't have completely free hands and free choice. So he had to make a very skillful maneuver. What will be the end result? I certainly wish strongly that we have a strong commission. And that is as well a responsibility of the governments that send the candidates to the capitals. And this is the reality we have today.
Indeed, as Mrs. Fajon mentioned, it seems Mr. Juncker didn't have the choice of all the candidates he had to nominate, and there have been few problems with Mr. Cañete with the climate change portfolio, Mr. Hill with the financial market, Mr. Moscovici with the economic affairs, or Mr. Navracic with citizenship responsibility. All these candidates seem to be as many red rags waved in front of MEPs. Is there not a casting error made by Jean-Claude Juncker? Actually, not for the choice of the name, but for the portfolio.
So I would say it's not only his mistake, or his weakness we are talking about and we have to solve. It's a combination. The responsibility is also very much with the governments of the member states, who refuse until today to give a wider choice. So if they would from the very beginning propose to the Commission's president 3 people, or at least 2 people, 1 man, 1 woman, and then the Commission's president could select what fits better into his planning for the Commission, would be much better. So we asked for this, I think, since a decade or longer as the Green Group in the European Parliament, and I think during those hearings we again had the proof that we are right with this. And Jean-Claude Juncker, I would really recommend to him to take this momentum in the European Parliament with those doubts on special candidates, which are really reasonable, those doubts after the hearings, to make something out of it. So together with the Parliament, how he improved the participation of women in the first round before the hearing, now to improve the competencies and so the political performance for the future of this Commission.
Regarding the choice Jean-Claude Juncker had, I assume, Barbara, you have a question for Mrs. Fajon.
Yes. Actually, this is a follow-up to what Ms. Harms has also already sort of observed, but I will put my question to Ms. Fajon due to various controversies surrounding nomination of a Slovenian candidate, Ms. Bratušek, for the Commission. As we know, Ms. Fajon, your name was also one of those mentioned on the list which was sent to Mr. Juncker. Do you feel that had you been on Ms. Bratušek's place, you would have done, if not a better job, maybe then given a different performance at the hearing yesterday?
Thank you for the question, but it's very difficult to judge at the moment. We followed the hearing very closely. I think we all are aware of the situation. Ms. Bratušek didn't leave a very good impression. That I have to say that was a common agreement, especially of the members of the both responsible committees and the coordinators. The decision at the moment is that both committees will have a vote, I guess tomorrow or on Thursday, and then we will see whether the decision of the committees, I'm not a member, will be whether she has to change the portfolio or Slovenia will have to give another name or another candidate. So at the time being, I cannot say what will happen. I can just say that I regret. It was not a very comfortable feeling for none of us, and I believe neither for her. And this just proves that the hearings in the European Parliament are actually a very serious test for all the candidates, and with this seriousness we have to continue.
Okay, Mrs. Fajon, right now there is a meeting of the leaders of the European Socialists and the President-elect Mr. Juncker and the European People's Party leader. So, what are they talking about? Is it now a decision of the political leaders who is going to be the commissioner, and what portfolio does he get?
I wish I would know what they are talking about. I don't think I'm the right address to ask me this question. I guess they will inform us. I can imagine that at the moment they are really trying to do everything to get the approval for the Commission. I think Juncker simply has now to find the compromises with, on one hand, the commissioners that are still in question, with the political groups, and to have reassurance that the Commission will pass the vote. And as long as he doesn't have these certainties from all sides, I think none of us, we can just speculate, but we will not have the final answer.
Okay, we are almost at the end, Mrs. Harms. How democratic is this? The leaders talking with President-elect on the future of the Commission?
Okay, it's part of the making of the European Commission. So I think it's not that much different from what happens in member states if you go for the preparation of coalition government. We have not a government with the European Commission. This makes it maybe a bit more tricky. And I would prefer that all the groups who are in the decision-making process in this parliament would be involved in such meetings. But this is maybe also a question of style, especially also in this house.
You weren't invited?
No, we have not been invited.
Okay, one last question to both of you. Don't you think that in this whole process now, the extreme right could be the winners? Mrs. Fajon.
I don't know why we could say here about the winners. I actually don't like even to use the formulation of winners or losers, because at the end of the day we are here to work for the interests of our citizens, and they should be the winners. So we have to take into consideration that we get out the best European Commission and the best compromise possible.
Mrs. Harms, a discussion on the democratic way to choose a commissioner. Who will be the winner, if I may use it again, the word?
So I think if we are able to improve the Commission and the construction, the sharing of the responsibilities, then we could win as Europeans, because our goal is to improve the work of the Commission for this next legislation, and this also would mean that the right wing and the anti-Europeans would become the losers. The better we work in Brussels, the better the Commission performs, so the more the anti-Europeans will lose.
Okay, we will follow how good this work will be. Thank you very much, Mrs. Harms. Thank you, Mrs. Fajon. Thank you, Olivier. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you all. And see you soon on You Talking to Me.